Okay, I wanted to raise a few points. So, actually, it's really directed to my colleagues here. Is that so? In the main, I really appreciate all the work that's gone into both this report and the appendix and all the other thinking. I know it's very complex and is very detail oriented. I do want to highlight a couple of things. Most in particular is that so if we start out with slide 3, and we talk about the goals of the board policy 7350. So, I think it's important. I mean, there are only 4 goals. And so I see more than 4 goals. I see 8 goals here. And so I think it's very important that when we're doing stuff that's aligned to board policy, that we're sticking very clear to the language of board policy. And so there's a lot of reference, and actually I don't see hardly any reference to charter schools in this report. So I'm just going to put it out there. Number 1, first goal is that we are to be good stewards of all of this property for generations, for 100 years, 200 years from now. And how we get there is not to generate unrestricted revenue. We got to hold title to the land and to the property, and to the extent that we're engaged in any long-term leases, joint use agreements, joint occupancy agreements, that the Oakland Military Institute agreement that we had is a good example of both providing a facility for Oakland kids to be educated in, and at the same time protecting that asset by allowing them to do capital investments, not on our dime, not on the district's dime. And I think that is a good example of adhering to of trying to meet to the first goal. The second goal is to house district and charter school students. Okay? Very upfront. That's upfront in the language. And so what I don't see here, I appreciate the issue around Prop 39 and facilitating a process for Prop 39, but I'm going to just put it out there again. On slide 4, on the factors affecting asset management, at this point, one of the biggest factors affecting asset management is state charter law. Okay? The fact that charters are allowed to exist, that the authorization process favors the petitioners and not to the authorizer, and the fact that they have access to money to do their design process and not allowed and not given to district schools to do redesign, and access to the property. Okay? And so when I'm hearing a strategic regional analysis, I'm thinking about what charter schools and CMOs would consciously, very proactively work with this district to figure out how we are going to serve young people who reside in our various neighborhoods, and it's going to work with some of the issues that actually Mr. Hutchinson pointed out around enrollment and discipline and so on and so forth. And so we have to be I think we have to be very explicit, because what I'm anticipating, I was hoping to see that in this report, but certainly anticipating in the next report, is there's Prop 39, but Prop 39 is largely for a 1-year deal, but no latitude, no real latitude to figuring out, anchor partners, real strategic partners. And so the OMI stuff happened not through a Prop 39 process. OMI happened because then Governor Brown calls State Administrator Randy Ward, I need this joint, I need it at a low price, make it happen. Okay? That's not a very strategic kind of decision making, but the point being is that there is an ordinary process, Prop 39, and there is an extraordinary process that we can embark on that I think we need to do. So the policy talked about quote unquote qualified charter schools. And for me, that's the qualification of a charter school, is what, to the extent that these schools are fitting into an overall district strategy to serve kids in all neighborhoods. I just put it out there again. The other thing is, the other thing around state charter law is there's legal backup. Okay? So we find ourselves in litigation, it's because we haven't moved fast enough on the board's policy. I know all this is painful, and I know for many people in this district at 1000 Broadway and out at the school sites that this stuff is very difficult to hear and to accept or to agree with. And even for myself, it's a little bit difficult. But the point is that there are certain things, we don't have all local control. School boards don't have all local control. Schools are a function of state government, and and the state takeover was the most clearest expression that when the locals can't take care of business, the state's going to take over and do it. And the potential litigation that will go out, folks, we lost the American Indian, despite massive evidence. We lost that. Why? Because of state charter law. So I want to just underscore the importance of us moving in this in this particular direction. And then I would also just, and my last point is, I'd like us to downplay this thing around revenue generation. Okay? I think in the context of protecting our assets, OMI is an example. And so long as we're running great schools, and the point that the superintendent made is not just the test scores, parents and students and teachers love their school. That's our business model, is running great schools, and the people will come. Okay? So I just want to underscore those 2 points. Now, if I'm way off the mark, colleagues, but I think it's important to provide the superintendent some, things to consider for the next report.